Hey guys, welcome back for another adventure. Hope you're doing well this week. If you've been hanging around the channel for any length of time, you've seen the evolution of my shop. Started long before I started doing YouTube videos, and it continues to this day. And one of the things I did, there's a video back there somewhere, is I built this cart for my table saw. Let's see if I can get this around so you can see it. There's the cart. And this thing has been really, really great. Works a lot better than the metal stand that came with the table saw. It's on casters and I can move it around. The biggest problem with this table saw, like many out there, is there's virtually no distance from the back of the blade to the back of the table. And if you're cutting any long stock, it wants to fall. I'm going to remedy that today. We're going to build an outfeed table and also make it so we can use it for assembly. It's not going to be, get you back up here where I can see you. It's not going to be a big fancy table with drawers and cabinets and stuff. There's going to be a shelf on the bottom, a nice solid top. And I haven't even really decided on the size of it yet. So follow along and we'll see how I make out. Here's some of the wood we're going to use. I picked up a bunch of 2x4s and some 3/4 inch plywood. We're going to throw this thing together. I've got some heavier duty casters that I think I'm going to put on the bottom. So let's get this table saw unbolted, get the stuff out of the bottom of the cabinet, because we're going to kind of integrate that into what we're building, and then hopefully swing you back around over here. Hopefully, if I get time, I'm going to put some drawers in the bottom of that. I'd like to have a small drawer at the top to hold saw blades, and then a bigger drawer, possibly for all my skill saws, because I don't have room in the other cabinet. The drawer is just too small, and I think they'll all fit in there. Okay, get all this stuff out of here.
Okay, clean out's complete. Now let's get all the dust off this stupid thing. It's amazing how much time I spend cleaning the shop. Do you guys have that problem? Let me know in the comments. It seems like I spend as much time cleaning the shop as I do building in the shop. Gotta love cleaning. So now you're watching my design process. I don't have anything on paper. This is how I'm going to design this thing. You know, I've got limited space, so we'll see what we can make happen here. And here we are cutting the 2 bottom rails. Love my radial arm saw for doing this stuff. I know a lot of you guys use a chop saw, but the old radial arm is still my favorite tool for cut off stuff, simply because I've got about 10 foot on each side of that blade, and if I have to, I can hang stuff out the garage door as long as I need to. The other thing I love the radial arm saw for is doing dados. Man, put a dado blade on that, and you can see what you're doing, you know, and you can do it. If you're doing bookcases that are 6-7 foot tall, you don't have to deal with trying to move that big heavy piece of wood. The wood stays still. So here we are, cutting them to length. Just cheap construction lumber. You know, the idea is to keep this thing as cheap as possible. Okay, so we got the two bottom rails cut. These are going to screw onto each side of the cabinet, and that's going to be kind of the width of what I'm building. We're going to hang it over an inch, inch and a half, but you'll see how this goes together. It's just throw some screws in from the front. Now those sides on that cabinet are 1 inch thick. They're two pieces of 1/2 inch plywood that I glued together. That's a sturdy cabinet. So we're going to line these 2x4s up with the bottom of that cabinet, because we're ultimately going to take those casters off and put some new ones on. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. You get to see how the whole thing goes together. I'm going to speed this thing up, and we'll be back in just a minute. So here we are with the bottom frame built, and I'm getting ready to install the legs that are going to go up and hold the top. Now, so much fun, but they missed me. Ha 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 ha. Isn't much more to say about this. We're going to get the 4 legs installed, and then we're going to put a bottom shelf on it. And here we are with the legs installed. It was so boring. I just cut all of that as screwing the legs in. Took me a few minutes, but we got it done. So let's move on. So here I am installing the new casters. They'll be at the 4 corners, and we'll take the ones off that were underneath that box. The reason I didn't reuse those casters is the locks were absolutely horrible and didn't really lock the cabinet down very good. And the locks were also hard to work. These new casters have a much better locking mechanism, do a much better job of locking this thing down so it doesn't move around when you're shoving wood through that table saw, which is important, as you know. Okay, so here we are, complete. Now we got to get that bottom shelf put on. And this is going to be fun because I want it to go out around those legs. Okay, cutting the bottom shelf. This was fun. I didn't want to do just the inside. I wanted it to come out around those 2 outer legs. So some cutting, some measuring and some cutting. And you can see we drilled a couple holes for the jigsaw, and we started trimming. Well, the trimming's done, and worked out pretty good. It's tight, and you know, it's construction lumber, so it's slightly twisted, and I had to work on it and smack it to get it down in, but I didn't want it to be too sloppy around those legs, so we'll smack it a few times. Very pleased with the way it came out, so I'll let you guys watch me work at it, and we'll slow the video back down when we get it complete. And here's the bottom shelf beat down and screwed into place. And it really made that thing solid. So now we're on to the top. And there you can see I'm testing out where I'm going to set my chop saw. Don't use it that much. Do most of my cutoff with the radial arm, but I don't want to get rid of it, so just wanted to put it down out of the way, and it fits in there perfectly. There's another view of it. Then you can see I've got the top framing done. Now I'm planning on putting 2 layers of 3/4 inch plywood on the top of that. So set it up so hopefully I won't have to shim the saw up any, but can do that if we need to. But it's pretty darn close. There's another view, and you can see the vise put on. If you remember some of my old videos, that vise was over at the end of the bench that the radial arm saw is sitting on. Then I took it off of there, brought it over here, put it on the end. I'm going to have to make a bigger piece of wood for the vise, a future project. And so now we're putting some paint on it. And I know how much you guys love to watch paint dry, so I'm not going to make you do that. We're going to stop here, and I'll bring you back when it's painted. And here we are, all painted. I put 2 coats of black on this thing. Looks pretty good. Don't really know if I like black, but hey, this was some paint I had, and I picked this paint up at Home Depot off their shelf, and pay $8-10 a gallon for it. And this was the best color for the shop, in my opinion. The greens and the oranges and the cherry reds just don't do anything for me. And I'm trying to save the little bit of blue I've got left for cabinet drawers. So the table saw's moved out of the way, and I'm working on putting those 2 layers of plywood on the top. Pretty simple. Screw one down around to the 2x4 frame, throw a bunch of glue on it, and then screw around the perimeter with coarse drywall screws. Works really well. I've done it many times. I didn't want to put screws out through the center because I'm planning on putting dog holes in this thing. You'll see that in a few minutes. And didn't want to take a chance of putting a screw in where I was going to drill a hole and screwing up my Forstner bit. But with the glue and setting these sheets of plywood, I mean, the first one got screwed down really well, so it was flat. This top one had a little bit of a bow, so you make it so the ends bow up, edges, and then when you let the screws pull it down, makes it nice and tight. With the plywood screwed together, now it's time to cut the laminate to size. And guess what color laminate we're going to use? Are you ready? Have you guessed? Throw it down in the comments. You know, at this point, you're almost 15 minutes into this video. If you liked it, if you're enjoying it, please hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, I'd really appreciate you guys subscribing to my channel. You know, I do lots of different things out in the shop. I try to keep it interesting. I may not be the greatest teacher, but I try to do things that will inspire you to get out in the shop and do your own stuff. Try some of my projects. You know, one of the things I enjoy is figuring stuff out. So this is some laminate that was given to me from a job I did down at the Tampa, Florida airport. It was left over. There was both blue and wood grain And you've seen me use it before. I did blue on the router table, and the wood grain is over on the bench where the radial arm saw is. Um, this is the last of the blue, so I decided to try to use most of it up. Worked out pretty good. This stuff has been sitting rolled up for, gosh, 2 years now, and so it's got quite a bow to it, and it doesn't want to come out, so I got to clamp it down here, and then we're going to cut it off. Now, there's lots of ways to cut laminate. I've seen guys score it with a knife and snap it. I've never had any luck doing that. I've seen guys use a router, which works great. And I've seen guys use a circular saw, and that works okay. But I found a tool that works even better. And you're going to see it here in just a minute. This is a nibbler from, this is a Milwaukee. I bought it to cut sheet metal. And then I found out that it does phenomenal cutting laminate and cutting FRP. If you guys ever work with FRP, one of my crews was using one of these, and it's slick because it cuts very smooth, cuts a line about a 1/4 inch wide, so you have to account for that, but man, it works so easy. And this is another one of those tools I think I've told you that actually my company ended up buying for me. And when I left that company, I tried to turn it in, and they didn't want it. They told me just keep it. So I've got quite a few tools that this company bought me. And their attitude was the cost of that tool and me doing the work saved them more than the cost of the tool if they would have had to pay a subcontractor to do the work. So there it is, trimmed off. Okay, so the laminate's out of the way. Now it's time to put some glue on this puppy. I was always scared of contact cement. And then I started using, I had to do a repair job on a laminate door. It was a half door in a restaurant, and I bought spray contact adhesive and followed the directions, and it worked really well. And so when I went to do the bench where the radial arm saw is, I bought a gallon of this stuff. Actually, I bought a quart, and it wasn't enough, and I ended up buying a gallon then. And followed the directions on the can. It works really, really well. Now, the one thing I've learned is when you've got a porous material like this plywood, is to put 2 coats on. You know, put a coat on, let it dry, and then put a second coat on and let it dry before you try to put things together. And of course, you're doing this on both of the surfaces. So we'll get this on. I won't bore you with both coats and everything, and we'll come back and we'll stick the top on. Okay, how to stick the top on. The glue is dried, so I've got some just pieces of oak. It was flooring that I've made into strips. I'm going to glue it together and make a table out of it one of these days. You'll see that video when we get there. And that holds the 2 pieces, the glue from touching. Because if the glue touches, it's stuck. So using those strips that don't stick to the glue, we can position this top exactly where we want it. Now, some people start by taking the strip out in the center and gluing it there. Some people start at one end. It really doesn't matter. I do it both ways, depending on what I'm doing, whichever works the best. And there you can see me starting at the end. Take one out. Now we can roll it up. Take the second one out. Drop it down. Take the third one out. Take the fourth one out. And take the last one out. Now, here's the important part. You need to get yourself one of these rollers, and you need to roll this thing down. If you don't, you will end up with places that the glue doesn't stick, and it'll come up, and you'll have a mess over time. You don't notice it right away. It looks good. But a few months down the road, you'll see that there's areas that didn't stick. I don't understand why, but get yourself one of these rollers. They're worth keeping around if you do any type of this work. You know, you could also do it with a piece of pipe filled with concrete, some 4-inch PVC if you wanted to. But some way to roll it down. Now that our glue is dried, it's time to trim the edge. Now we're just going to use a flush trim bit on a laminate trimmer. Gee, I wonder why they call it that. And you can see how easily this thing rolls around. I didn't bother to lock the wheels down. Also, that base plate that I've got on there. I don't know how you guys do it if you use those stock base plates on routers this small. I can't keep it straight. So I make these out of 1/4-inch plexiglass. So I can get my hand out on that thing and hold the router so it's flush with the top. Makes it so much easier for me anyway. I don't know. Maybe you have more skill than I do. But here it is. We're just zipping this thing off. And I'm not going to do anything to that raw plywood on the edges. It's good enough. It's just a workbench in the shop that's going to get tore up and get redone in, who knows, 4, 5, 6 years, 10 years. Don't know. So it's called doing it fast and doing it cheap. Now we're getting ready to lay this out for the dog holes. I decided to do a 6-inch grid. Why? I don't know. It just seemed right. I don't think I need them any closer together than that. I know some guys do them at 3 inches or 4 inches. I'm doing these at 6. If I decide I need more, I can always go back and split between them and do a 3-inch grid. I mark everything with a permanent marker, so I get a nice dark black line on these things. I want to be able to see it, and with my CSS, I need dark lines. At the end, we'll take the permanent marker off with some naphtha or some denatured alcohol or something. Now it's time to drill a bunch of holes. Forstner bit. This is the Miles Craft poor man's drill press. I don't use it very much, but boy, it's handy when I need it. Make sure that those holes go straight in. So we're going to drill a bunch of holes, and we're going to have fun doing it, whether we like it or not. And there you can see the dog that goes in, test. So I'll bring you back when we're done. And here it is with all the holes drilled in it. Now we're going to clean all those black lines up with some naphtha. Yeah, it takes a little bit of elbow grease. I probably could have put a pad on a buffer and done it that way, but they came off pretty quick. Just a quick tip for you guys if you don't know. Permanent marker is not permanent. Well, here it is completed, guys. You can see the chop saw and the planer down underneath. All the dog holes are in. I hope you enjoyed this build. Please, if you're not subscribed, help a guy out. Hit that subscribe button. It's easy and it doesn't cost anything. And if you're subscribed, hey, leave a comment, even if you're not subscribed. Thinking about putting a couple drawers under there. Don't know yet. You'll have to subscribe and watch some of my videos. Find out if I did it. Have a good one. Bye.